Welcome into another episode of Hot Takes and High Stakes. We are your hosts, Taylor and Austin. Today we dive into the NFC South, give our quick draft breakdowns, schedule analysis, and future bets. How you feeling looking into the NFC South?
NFC South is going to be super competitive this year. This was a lot of fun to dive into. I'm excited to get into these teams. Started off with the Falcons.
Falcons. First things first, I want to make it clear, it is never in history of football been good to have two left-handed quarterbacks. Ever has that been a smart decision. I feel like out of all left-handed quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, these are two of the most inconsistent and irrational quarterbacks we have out there as well.
Which quarterback do you think starts week one?
I think Tua is the more polished quarterback out of the two, which is saying something. But looking at the couple good weeks he did have in Miami, I mean, he was throwing for 320, 330 when Waddle and Hill were both healthy and doing well. He did play well. It's just you can't overcomplicate the offense for Tua. You can't make him do too much. You have to slowly allow him to roll on, and then he can take those big shots when they open up.
Yeah, I don't care for Tua. I think you're right. Personally, I don't think that Michael Penix will beat him out, but I just hate watching Tua. I really like it's the flares kind of died off with him in my book. I mean, maybe this will be his rebirth. I don't think so. I really don't.
I mean, looking back, I mean, in history, if you look at it, you have Mike Vick, Steve Young, maybe a couple other handful of left-handed quarterbacks that have really succeeded, but it really has not been a true defining champion as a left-handed quarterback. It doesn't work well. The ball spins different for receivers. It's hard to really work well for receivers, and obviously they can get better at it. They can learn. But I think Tua, the CTE is really kind of set in this past year and a half. All those concussions and everything's really caught up to him. I think he's the better starter, but he just makes some terrible decisions and throws 4 or 5 interceptions in a game.
Yeah, that's exactly why I personally would like to see Michael Penix. Again, another injury-ridden quarterback, but he was so much fun to watch at Washington. He is a playmaker. I love watching him throw corner routes to the back of the end zone. He's super fun to watch.
He also opened up Kyle Pitts, too. That was also a good thing to see, too. We didn't see that for the past couple of years, but we actually got to see rookie Kyle Pitts again, where he's stretching the seam. He's taking that top up over the middle, making that safety kind of give that double take, which is also opening up Drake London on the outside. It's kind of worked well, but I'm just worried if Tua's arm strength's going to be able to throw the ball downfield like Pitts and London need as well.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that I was going to jump into was the Michael Pitts deal that he got. Certainly can have those seasons, but definitely overpaid Kyle Pitts for what we've seen from him. I think they like the way that he's trending. I think they see what he can do in the future, and that's exactly what they're investing in.
See, I was excited for him coming out of Florida, just like every other football fan was, especially when he went top 5. He is athletic, he's strong, he's fast. But what quarterback has he really had throwing the ball? We had Lake for Matt Ryan. We have Kirk Cousins, who, I mean, we can all agree has not had a strong arm the past couple of seasons. He really hasn't been given the right opportunities. And I feel like Penix at least gives him that opportunity to make that deep ball, to allow him to show that 4.4, 4.5 speed that he still has. And plus that, 8-foot wingspan he's got? Like, that's not made for...
On paper, phenomenal athlete.
But those wingspans not made for a dump off over screens down the middle.
Yeah.
That's made for 15, 20 yards down the field.
Yeah, scheme was not friendly to him with Arthur Smith at all, but that's all changing. That's evolving. Things are looking up for the Falcons.
Kevin Stefanski's going to really bring something different to this culture. I feel like he's really going to allow them to hopefully take that next step, because it's been a dark time for Atlanta the past couple of years.
Stefanski's a great pickup, and coming into the talent that he has, maybe questionable at the quarterback spot, but the rest of the team, they're not great, but they're a solid team. They can do well. This division's very competitive, but if they can win some of these games in their division, get a couple of those non-divisional wins, I think they can be a contender. Maybe wild card team. I don't see much more than that, but I think their ceiling definitely set it at wild card contention.
Obviously, they don't have a first-round draft pick because they have the James Pierre draft from last year. Kind of a weird situation, ties their rookie sack record. and then gets arrested for ramming his car into his ex-girlfriend's car while she was trying to make it to the police to file a complaint against him. Kind of a wild story there. Hopefully he gets it all figured out. Such a talented player. It was well worth the draft last year. Hopefully this little hiccup doesn't define his career, because last year James Pierce was fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely worth giving up that first round pick as they did. So I'll give them all the credit in the world. Sometimes you're taking a major risk with that, trading next year's first round pick if that player doesn't pan out. But talent wise, no question there. Jumping into the first pick they had in the second round, 48th overall, Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson.
Possibly the best corner in the draft this year. Hands down, was a great snack. Not only is he going to be tied up with his brother AJ on the other side, which I think is a great story, being brothers, two corners on the team, but this kid was so strong handed, so fast, quick hips. He stuck to receivers like glue. This was hands down the best cornerback in the draft this year.
Yeah, super entertaining. Looking right here in the Mel Kiper right up here. 8 forced fumbles, absolutely incredible. That's out of a corner. That's insane. You have linebackers that don't have those kind of numbers. So
That's a peanut Tillman.
oh yeah.
The only concerning issue with him is he is coming off that torn Achilles, which hopefully that's not going to hinder him too much. Hopefully that young age can allow him to recover. But I think that's kind of the reason why he did fall into the second round, because otherwise this would be a early first round draft pick talent wise. I think this would be a great way to shore up that secondary that really seemed to have some struggles, but they also had some young stars kind of show up late last year.
They did. Yeah, their secondary is going to be strong. I really like this next pick. Zachariah Branch, wide receiver coming out of Georgia. I think this is a great addition to that team. Going to be some help for Drake London. I don't see Juwan Dotson being that guy long term.
I'm not sure what caused him to fall in the draft. I don't know if it's injury issues, if it's a attitude issue. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't read anything into that.
I would
see anything.
Just assume, looking at it, it's the fact that he's 5'9", 179 pounds. 179, that's low. You got to put a little bit of weight behind you. Phenomenal speeds.
But then nowadays, like that short light receiver seems to kind of be the hot commodity lately. I mean, look at Xavier Worthy, look at Zay Flowers, look at all these short, fast slot style receivers that kind of been taking over the NFL recently.
What happened to Xavier Worthy when his tight end ran into him going across the middle of the field? I'm just trying to make a point here.
To be fair, that's what happens when you have a 21-year-old out there with a 39-year-old. You're going to get that miscommunication, and the big man's always going to win. Looking at the draft grade, I know it's only a few picks. I feel like they really did well, at least getting the needed positions, because they did reset their entire receiver room, getting rid of Darnell Mooney, getting rid of Hodges as well. Kind of have a full reset. I feel like they did.
Also, Ray McLeod.
Yeah, they kind of did a full rebuild in that room, which I feel like was needed. Drake London was the only productive receiver in that whole room that would stay consistent, which disappoints me because Darnell Mooney was supposed to be so good.
He had moments, but not a game breaker for sure. Looking at the depth that we went into in this draft, I'm going to give him an A just because the decisions they made last year, that first round pick, proven talent, it paid off. They addressed their issue at wide receiver. They addressed their secondary issue. They didn't solve everything, but for the depth that we went into with this podcast, I'm going to give them an A.
Just the fact that they are missing the first round draft pick, and the reason why they're missing it is facing possible prison sentence. I'm going to have to say a B plus, because I feel like the two players they did get were excellent talent, very needed positions. Jumping into their schedule breakdown, I feel like the Falcons are always that 7-9, 7-10 team the past couple of years, right?
That's usually where they're at. Pull up their schedule here.
Into it, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of lean towards the under.
I'm favoring the under as well.
Just because I feel like they have a lot of questions on quarterback. Bijan's a extreme talented running back. Drake London's exploding out in the scene. Kyle Pitts, who knows, maybe he's getting better. That would be cool. But either Tua or broken knee Penix, like I feel like there's not really a good option there, no matter what side you play there.
No, and looking into this, again, this division is just so competitive, and their non-divisional games that they play are super tough. They've got Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Chicago, San Francisco, Cincinnati, the Chiefs, like this is the first half of this schedule alone is absolutely brutal. Like it's very possible that they go 10 weeks without a win. I think one of these divisional games they will hang in there and maybe squeak out a win. Those first 10 weeks, I don't know that they get more than 1, 2 wins at
Like
most.
every single NFC South game is always a battle, and you never know who's going to win. So they might sneak one or two out there. Who knows where we're at with Baltimore? Who knows if Lamar is back to being Lamar or if we're back to where we were last year? New head coach. I have a lot of questions in that situation. Honestly, I kind of like the under comfortably. I would put a decent amount of units on that.
Anything else in this schedule that stands out to you? Possible ties?
No, no. I would like to ask your opinion. Do you think ties belong in the NFL?
Man, you just opened a can of worms. No, it needs to change. And I think within the next couple of years, I think we will see the tie go away. Once fans bitch about it enough, the NFL tends to lean in that direction of the majority. And I think you will see a change with the overtime rules. I don't think there's any reason to have a tie. But the one thing with that, when it does come playoff time, it does make the divisional shakeups fun when there's a tie in there, especially if it's a divisional game where there was a tie. It just completely throws all of the metrics off. But I'm not a fan of having a tie in any sport.
There should never be a tie. There's a winner and a loser.
But it'll be interesting to see what Stefanski brings to this team. I think Raheem Morris did not help this team in any way. I still like him in a way for some reason. I don't know what it is, but just some of the decisions that he would make, you're like, how are you an NFL head coach? It's just,
Yeah, I
he
feel like
wasn't,
he was young. It was his first head coach, and it showed a
yeah,
lot of that early mistakes.
yeah. So I think Stefanski will be a good addition. And I also think that Michael Penix will end up being the starter at some point in the season if he does not start out that way at the beginning of the season.
Well, we're going to see a 4 interception to a game at some point during the
It's
season.
coming.
And it's going to be Penix the next
One of my favorite props is a Tua interception. Absolutely.
smash every week. Every week. Smash that.
He's the only quarterback that you'll see that has a 1.5 interception line, not just a 0.5.
Always tip the over on pass attempts and interceptions thrown. Those are always safe props for Tua at quarterback. I feel like Bijan is a possible fantasy championship player. I feel like Drake London is kind of been emerging as that top 10 receiver. Kyle Pitts, who knows what we got with Kyle Pitts. But other than that, I can't trust this team. I feel like the addition of Brian Robinson is going to be interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a lead back with Bijan, with Brian getting maybe 4 or 5 touches a game.
They just made this the most confusing fantasy backfield to watch. It was already confusing with those two players, and now they're in the same backfield. Cannot.
How many people are going to draft Brian Robinson first overall in fantasy this year on accident?
Somebody does it every year anyways, and now it's definitely happening.
It's
You
going
got
to
a
for sure
Falcons
happen.
logo next to him. Yeah,
I'm not touching him in fantasy just because I'm afraid that I'll end up with Brian at some point.
you don't want to be that guy. Next for this NFC South divisional breakdown, let's look at the Saints. How are you feeling?
I feel like they're an interesting team. Personally, I think Kellen Moore could be a very good coach in this league. He's really succeeded everywhere he's gone as an OC with the Chargers and with Philly. He's done well. He's taken what he has and he's succeeded with it. And then last year we kind of saw that kind of come to with Chris Olave playing well. We had some kind of breakout from Tyler Shuck here and there. It was kind of a fun season to watch last year.
Really was, yeah. Kellen Moore is one of my favorite young coaches for sure. I've followed him everywhere he's went because I was a big fan of him when he was the Boise State quarterback. Takes me back. Yeah, he's been a phenomenal OC, and I think he's just fit to be a NFL coach. Really impressed with how he develops these quarterbacks. He knew he wanted Tyler Shuck. That was his guy. Everyone kind of laughed at that pick, to include us. We were not banking on Tyler Shuck amounting to anything, and they waited. They gave him a little bit of time, and that guy came in there and just shocked everybody. Finished with so much momentum.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I was on the Spencer Rattler stage last year. I thought he was the better quarterback of the two. I thought
Yeah.
he would have done better. I'm glad I'm wrong. It was fun to watch Tyler Shuck kind of come out and dominate the league, especially those last couple weeks, and really shock everybody and show that he is actually an athletic quarterback.
I like Shuck even more now that I've seen some of his candid interviews that he does. He's just a dude, like somebody that you'd absolutely want to go out there and drink beers with.
Yes. Oh, yes. Kind of interesting adding Travis, what do you want to say? Achan, Etienne?
It's Travis Etienne. If it's your first year coming in the league, you can say, my name's actually pronounced this way. People don't know you, but you can't be on your second contract and then say, my name is Achan, one of the best performing running backs in the NFL last season
Yeah.
that happens to play for the Dolphins. No, his name is Travis Etienne, as far as this podcast is concerned. But all jokes aside, I think that's a great addition for this team. Moving on from Alvin Kamara, I really think that this adds that pass catching backfield ability. Really excited to see how he fits in here. Dumb decision by the Jaguars to get rid of him, in my opinion, but
Yeah.
it comes down to business rules.
I kind of feel like he's more of a same play style with a little bit more athleticism. I mean, to be fair, we do have a Travis Etienne 1,000-yard rushing season. We never had one of those with Kamara. So it's kind of exciting to decide, kind of see them pair up. Kind of curious what they're going to do with tight end.
Juwan
So
Johnson.
I'm kind of curious with the moving on Taysom Hill. I mean, it's kind of needed. He is in his, 30-year-old kind of Swiss Army knife. Everyone's kind of predicted that kind of play now. He did have a couple good plays, a couple good games last year, but Jawan Johnson clearly tight end number one in that camp. Bring in Noah Fant this offseason as well to kind of shore up that position group.
Everybody's bringing in the at least two tight ends. Everyone's got to have that 12-man, 13-man personnel package because it's trending in the NFL right now, and it works.
Yeah, and so many plays are able to run off it. You got RPO options. You can run the ball very easily with a lot more protection off it. It's just great, especially with all these receiving tight ends. Before we get any further, let's go ahead and jump into their drafts. First round draft pick. Who do we got? Jumping into their draft, Jordan Tyson, potentially one of the best receiving prospects behind Cardinal Tate this year. He was electric coming out of USC. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, this pick, as far as that team goes, I think it shows that they have full confidence in where they need to be going forward. If you're grabbing a wide receiver, you obviously don't have concerns with your offensive line. You don't have major concerns with edge rushers, corners. To me, I think that's saying that this team thinks that they're almost through the rebuild and that they're ready to get some playmakers. I think if they can keep Chris Olave on the field and pair him with Jordan Tyson, I absolutely think Jordan Tyson's going to be a starter out of the gate, and I think the two of them could do really well. If we can see Shuck continue to build on that momentum that he had going last season, I think this can be a very dominant offense. I do have a lot of questions on defense. I don't think their defense is going to be absolutely dominant, but I think this offense can keep them in a lot of games.
My only concern looking at it, and this is just from the outside looking in, Jordan Tyson does have a lot of injury concerns coming out of college. That's also pairing him with Chris Olave, who we've all seen has those injury concerns in the league as well. That leaves a young quarterback without his top tier receivers potentially in key moments of the season, which, knock on wood, this isn't going to happen, but I'm worried that they're going to put too much on this kid's plate and they're going to allow Chris Olave, who's going to have 10th concussion of the season.
Chris Olave can't make it through an entire season. We know that.
Which is sad because he is very talented. But I'm worried about this kid's injury history. Hopefully that's over with. Hopefully he's grown, he's healed, and we can move forward. But that is something to kind of keep an eye out for. Second round draft pick, we have a defensive tackle, Christian Miller.
Coming out of Georgia. Yeah, I think this is a good addition for that defensive front. Should be plug and play. They've seen him as an edge rusher as well. He's great pass rusher, 30 pressures in his college career. He's only played 693 snaps as a tackle, as a D tackle, and then he played 311 as nose tackle. So very interior oriented defensive lineman. So probably taking on a lot of double teams in the SEC. I don't think those are bad statistics. I think there's a lot of upside for this guy, and I think he'll be ready to fit right into the NFL.
A defensive tackle out of Georgia, that's always that safe, comfortable pick that you can get.
It's always out of Georgia, but as we're seeing this year, that Texas Tech, I don't think there's anyone on that defensive front that did not get drafted in the NFL. Yeah. Personally, I'd have to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure everyone on that defensive front went to the NFL.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure at least 7 of their 11 starters went to the NFL in this draft.
Looking into the next edition is Oscar Delp, tight end, another one out of Georgia. I think this absolutely adds the depth that we've been looking for with Taysom Hill leaving, as you mentioned earlier, Juwan Johnson and Noah Fant. That's a pretty decent tight end room. I think that gives you plenty of versatility. Juwan Johnson, probably more so your more downfield pass catcher. Noah Fant, those short routes, he's definite good blocking tight end.
No fan can't stay healthy. I feel like I could definitely see Delp take over on the depth chart over Noah Fant and kind of be that number two right behind Juwan Johnson. But like we were saying earlier, that 12, 13 personnel, it kind of seems to be popping through the league lately. I feel like he could get a lot of saps, especially late in the season, get a lot of meaningful catches, especially if we have a possible injury with Jawan Johnson isn't young anymore. He's not in his 20s. He is getting up there. He does need those breaks on his body.
Overall, what are you grading this draft?
They got some needed positions. They got a very, very talented receiver in Jordan Tyson. I kind of like an A minus, maybe a B plus. I'm gonna stick with B plus. Just feel like I think they could have got some more offensive line help. I feel like that was the most needed position, offensive line, possibly maybe even a linebacker. They could really use some linebacker help.
Yeah, agreed, and that's why I'm going to give him a C. I think taking a wide receiver shows confidence in the team that you have, but I do think that there's positions they should have addressed. I always one of the first 3 rounds I want to see an offensive lineman. Every team, it doesn't matter for me to be happy and give it an A. I want to see an offensive lineman. Unless you're the 2012 New England Patriots offensive line, I think you need to be drafting linemen.
No matter what type of offenses you run, if you do not have a strong offensive line, you do not have a strong offense. And I know they've shored up a lot of offensive linemen in their previous drafts, especially in the early rounds, but it's still nice to see maybe third round interior guard, something along that line, just to shore up that safety in case someone does get hurt. You have someone you can plug and play.
Absolutely. Season win-loss total sitting at 7.5. What I see pretty much across the board. Initial thought, I'm favoring the over on this. Let's pull up the schedule and dive into it. Okay, let's look at the first 4. You got Detroit, Baltimore, Las Vegas, Atlanta. That is not
Two out of
easy.
four.
I mean, what 2 are you giving them that easily? I'm pretty high on the Saints, so I I think they can beat Baltimore. I think they can beat Vegas, and they can probably beat Atlanta based on their quarterback situation.
I think it's back and forth with Baltimore. I'm curious on what we have. Obviously, we bounce back and forth on which Baltimore team went there, but I'm kind of giving that edge to Baltimore on that one. Detroit, obviously, I'm giving to Detroit.
Early season Detroit, yeah, you got to favor them.
Yeah, yes. Other than that, they do have a couple easier-ish games in that back end of the season. We get Tampa Bay a couple times late. We get Falcons to end off, Carolina late. We do have somewhat of a kind of a nice bounce back though with that Cleveland right after the bye. I mean, what better team to have coming out of a bye than Cleveland?
Yeah, and a bye coming off the game in Paris as well. I think leaving week 5, I think Minnesota, they'll take New York, they'll take Pittsburgh. Those games overseas, you never know what's going to happen with there. And then you get a rest week, like you mentioned. Yeah, Cleveland, you love to have them coming off of a bye week. You're going to go another divisional game against Carolina. That's going to be a battle. And then the tail end of the schedule is pretty doable for where this team sits. I don't think any of them are going to be definite wins. I don't think any of them you can chalk up as definite losses, but definite coin flip here from this week 14 to week 18 stretch. Certainly, I don't think they're the caliber of team to beat the Green Bay Packers coming off of Jordan Love Toyota-thon. It's just it's, after Thanksgiving, I would not fade the Packers. So yeah, I think that tail end is really going to be the difference maker with this under-over line.
I don't think that they're beating the Giants. Looking at it, I see them having some tough games. I want to take the under. I think the Saints are going to do well, but I do think that is going to be some growing pains and there's going to be some actual injury pains that is going to plague this team. I hope not, but this team has been injury ridden throughout a couple of years, and then they're bringing in players with more injury issues, and it's red flag to me all.
Yeah, I'm taking the over. I think within this first 7 weeks, if they can win at least 3 of those from bye week on, every one of these games is a coin flip, with the exception of probably the Packers. So I think over is a safe bet on this one.
All right, so we're at a pass.
Closing thoughts on the Saints.
Ooh, I think moving on from Kamara was possibly one of the best decisions they could have done. I think it was maybe a year too late, though, feel like they should have done that last year. Would probably put them in a better situation this year. They got some good talent at receiver. They have some good talent on offense. Is Tyler Shuck going to be able to put it all together? And is Kellen Moore going to be able to keep them all in line and allow them to grow?
Absolutely. You're going to look at 9 wins, New Orleans Saints.
I'm thinking more of a 6-7 win New Orleans Saints.
7.5, which is basically 8.
I think 7 is about the best case scenario what we get in the Saints this year.
Yeah, you don't know shit.
All right, jumping into the next team, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kind of the most interesting team. How you feeling about this?
The only reason I have any interest in the Bucks is Baker Mayfield and Emeka Buka. That's my interest. Mike Evans is gone. That was the heart and soul of that team, in my opinion. I don't have a lot of high hopes for the Bucks this year. I really think it'll either come down to them getting rid of Baker Mayfield, which not rightfully so, but Todd Bowles probably dismissing by the end of the season if they duplicate what they did last year.
Do you
But
think he makes it to the end of the season?
yes, yeah, it wouldn't be a midseason firing, in my opinion. I don't think they're that type of organization. But last season, we look at their first 6 weeks. I would have told you that Baker Mayfield was going to be the MVP of the NFL. Absolutely incredible.
Emeka Buka was going to be Rookie of the Year, and it was clear. Somewhere along the lines, we saw Baker kind of fall off, and it didn't make sense.
Baker was hurt. He was trying to make too much happen for the team when there was no one around him. The backfield completely tore up with injuries. Wide receivers tore up with injuries. Offensive line did not help him in any way, and Baker's just an all-out player. I will back this guy anytime.
Yeah.
And those losses aren't on him. Yes, sometimes he doesn't pull you out of those situations that he needs to, but Baker's not your problem there.
He's going to do what it takes to win, and you can't coach that mentality into a player.
He's a winner.
That drive, that grind to be the best, do what it takes to put your team on your back. There were several plays last year where it was several fourth downs that he would just put the ball in his hands and get that 8-9 yards, pick up the first down, and keep the drive alive.
Absolutely. Sacrifice every limb, everything that he has just to get a first down, which some people argue isn't smart play, but he wants to win football games, and I'm all for it. I will back a guy like that anytime. Unfortunately for Baker, bringing in another offensive coordinator for him to try to learn a new system, Zach Robinson coming in from the Falcons. I don't have a lot of high hopes for this guy, just considering where he's coming from. Nothing against him, but we'll see what happens.
How many OCs is this guy going to go?
This is 4th, 5th, I would think, for a full season.
With just
no,
because he went through how many OCs in Cleveland and how many offensive coaches when he went through that?
At least 3 in Cleveland.
Tampa Bay, through that whole LA and Panthers season.
I'm not counting that. Not counting any of that.
He had to go through several different systems he had to learn that year as well.
Yeah.
I feel like this dude is constantly having to learn a new offensive system.
Yeah, could be off on those numbers, but yeah, way too many OCs for him to get used to. Another big issue with the Bucks is they're giving up 400 plus yards multiple games defensively last season. Defense did not do them any favors. They put them in must-score situations, and that's what leads to what we just discussed with Baker having to go make those plays. Okay, this is what I really like about their draft. Round 1, Ruben Bain. I would imagine 2 months leading up to the draft, they didn't expect this guy to be there at pick 15. No. This was supposed to be a first-round pick, off-field questions with this guy, but absolutely one of the most talented pass rushers that's coming into the NFL.
Did you watch the draft by chance? When
yes.
He did that whole hat celebration with every single. He grabbed that shit and kept walking. I am putting my money down on
all
defensive
business.
Rookie of the Year.
All business.
This man is there to dominate. He is overlooked, and he watched 14 players go that he felt like did not need to go before him. This man will be a force.
Ruben Bain is already terrifying, but now Ruben Bain with a chip on his shoulder, and to show all those teams
that he was there at 15 is a blessing in disguise for everybody, including Ruben. I feel like he is in a system where a team will love him. They will give him everything they need. Look at Villa, who has been a staple in that franchise, and it's all it takes is a couple good years.
Yeah, it sounds like Mel Kiper's not too high on him being a starter, but I think he absolutely will be a starter, in my opinion. Moving on from him, I don't think we need to talk about Ruben Bain that much. Everyone knows him. He was probably going to be a top 3 pick
Was
in the
probably gonna
draft,
be the
but
number 1 pick if
got
you
him at
asked us last year.
jumping into pick number 2, Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri. Me personally, I've loved this linebacker class through this entire draft. As far as the 46th pick, I don't think this was the best option as far as that available talent goes. 6'2", 237 pounds. Really quick linebacker, but I'm not sold on him. He's questionable in pass coverage. I just think there was so much more available talent at the linebacker position that we saw even going late into the third round that I don't see the reach for this guy personally, but hopefully it proves me wrong.
I did like the speed coming out of it. I feel like that kind of is factoring into where the NFL is kind of moving nowadays, where it's a lot more of a fast pace, high speed kind of a play system.
But you have to be able to cover.
But they could always teach that. That's always a technique that they could always teach. It may take a year or two, but they could always teach that, especially with a round 2 pick. They have a little bit of time to develop it. You can't teach that speed. You can't teach those instincts that this man has constantly had throughout his career in Missouri.
Bringing him in as a developmental player with Anzalone edition coming in. Beautiful hair. Let's just take a minute and recognize that hair, first of all.
The jawline of a last
Oh,
episode, we talked about the great hair of Trevor Lawrence. Alex Anzalone's right there with the second best hair in the NFL.
but yeah, not my absolute favorite pick. I do think he can be developmental, like you were saying, very quick, great genetics. He's not as big as I would like to see for a linebacker, but as you just stated, the league's trending that way. So maybe they can develop him and get a player out of him.
I do, though, like the pairing with Anzalone. Anzalone is not known for being the most superb athletic beast on the field, but he makes up for it with his intelligence and with his preparation moving into every single week. He knows what's going into it. He knows what he has to expect and what to look out for, what schemes to run into. With this kid being able to have that mentor with him to allow him to break down the schemes, he already has the speed and the talent behind it. If you can just move over that intelligence, you could have a very, very great field general for the next couple of years to come.
All right, jumping into their third pick, Ted Hurst, wide receiver out of Georgia State. Extremely quick wide receiver, running 4'4", 6'3", 206 pounds. 40 time, doesn't matter to me. Wide receiver, I know everyone wants the absolute fastest wide receiver, but for me, it's change of direction. It doesn't matter how fast you can run a straight line. Anyone can cover you on a straight line in the NFL. But 11-3 broad jump, I really like that. I'm not sure this team needed another wide receiver, but with this guy sitting there in the third round, I can't really knock him for taking it. I think that's a great addition to that team. Yeah, very competitive coming in this wide receiver room for sure.
Definitely need to make up for at least Mike Evans leaving, at least not for the playmaker ability. Chris Godwin and Mecca Buka will obviously be a great 1-2 with Tess Johnson, but I feel like this kid was a very great player, even though he was playing in Division II, kind of an unknown school. The combine did allow him to break out, allow him to kind of put his name on the board and jump up into the third round. I just hope that he can develop and do something meaningful and not just be another cog in the system.
Yeah, I know typically we haven't went beyond third round in this podcast for the most part, but I do want to mention Keontae Scott. I'm very big on this guy, and I was surprised that he went as low as the fourth round. Extremely quick, 4.3 40, 44-inch vertical. And he's only 5'11", 193 pounds, but I think that's absolutely perfect for a slot corner. I think he will fit right into that role. I also think he has the ability to play safety if needed. Wrapping up the draft for the Tampa Bay Bucks, what grade are you going to go with?
I want to give them a B plus, which I know I've kind of given out a lot of Bs so far in this division. If it wasn't for the Ruben Bain, I would give this team a C minus. I feel like that was the biggest pick they could have done. It was the best pick they could have done. There's no other player that they could have dreamed of to help their team right now and win right now.
Not at pick 15.
No.
Not going to be there. But yeah, they're obviously taking a gamble. There's maybe some questionable character issues, but I think this guy is going to be all business. I think he has to prove himself, and I truthfully think he'll do that. So I'm jumping in, giving him a B as well. I think they were great. Like I said, I don't think they needed a wide receiver personally that high in the draft, but with that talent sitting there, I think you kind of have to jump in and take that. So
before we jump ahead, I'm kind of just, what were we thinking not picking an offensive lineman? Again, I know we kind of beating the dead horse here. Another not picking an offensive lineman in the first couple rounds, but this is coming off a season where we lost a lot of offensive line to injury. Didn't really have our full offensive line starters until about week 12, week 13, before we had our full true starters together again. And by then, Baker was beat to shit. Offensive receivers were beat to shit, like you mentioned earlier. There was no point. Why are we not picking up young players that we can plug and play when the injuries do happen? Because injuries happen. This is the NFL, especially in the offensive line where you have a car crash every single play. You need to have that someone to fill that void. Not picking up someone that you've shown last year you needed is just a fault to the GM, a fault to the team, and I feel like it's going to bite their ass again like it did last year.
Win-loss total sitting at 8.5 for this team. Absolutely, I do not see them going over 8.5 wins. I think this is going to lead to the departure of Todd Bowles. At least I hope it does, because I do not want to see Baker rehomed yet again.
No, and he needs to be in Tampa. He belongs in Tampa. They've loved him there. He fits there. Todd Bowles has been kind of intermediate, wishy-washy within the community and within the fans. I feel like under is a comfortable bet, which sucks. I like to see Baker in the playoffs. It's a different dog. I like to see all the other players in the playoffs because they kind of seem to shine, but I just don't want to see Todd Bowles in another year. And if they make the playoffs, I don't think they'll move on from Todd.
The NFL just does not like the NFC South. Like, looking at this schedule, the first 9 weeks prior to their bye, it's very possible they don't win a game. They get hammered. I mean, they can probably handle Cleveland, but you never know. Cleveland's always that team that'll just show up there and surprise you. I think that'll be a grind, but obviously Baker has a good game. He can go out and beat a team like that. Maybe Minnesota, but there's a stretch right in here that's just absolutely brutal between the Packers and the Chicago Bears. Doesn't get any better after the bye. You got to go play Detroit. Another tough divisional game with the Carolina Panthers.
I just think the Chargers are going to be competitive. I know you don't think so the same, but I do think the Chargers are going to put a run for their money.
I absolutely think the Chargers are going to be competitive. I just don't think they're winning their division.
Let's see about that one. Other than that, I mean, we got the Rams second to last week. That's going to be a slaughter for this team. And that's going to be bad. That's going to be real bad. We got Myles Garrett for the Rams now. Poor Baker is going to be running for his life while he has his third string offensive lineman trying to protect his blind side. Overall, I think under, safe bet. Do you think Todd Bowles is the first coach fired this year?
Him or Aaron Glenn?
I feel like Aaron Glenn, they're going to give him the end of the year before they'll fire him. Being a stalwart in their team late in the 90s when he was a player, I feel like he gives them at least the end of the year. Todd Bowles is kind of my big.
I don't think it'll be in season. I really don't. I could be wrong. I don't think so.
If they start out 1-7, 2-8, I feel like you can't do anything else.
That's
but fire him.
Probably just my personal preference, though. I am not in favor of in-season firings. I just don't think that achieves anything whatsoever. I mean, other than making a statement that we're going to win here.
Aside from last year, they were the reigning division champions for the last 2 years, which isn't saying much when they've done it with 8 wins.
This division is very competitive, and the Bucs are going to be probably at the bottom of it. It'll be a toss-up between them and the Falcons.
All right, for our last team, we've kind of saved the best for last. I don't know about you, but I'm possibly the most excited for this team. That's Carolina Panthers. Previous champions, I had to wear a corn dog costume last year and play a whole round of golf because I thought that they were going to be dominant when they weren't, but they
pulled it together for you, but you were overhyped for week 1.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I definitely said that.
We all make bad bets.
Bryce Young really stepped up last year. He really showed that he could develop into something, and I'm excited to see how he grows into this year.
Super excited for this team. We've got the Jalen Phillips edition coming over from the Eagles, but the main point with the Panthers that I think everyone needs to take into consideration, they lost to the Rams by 3 points in that playoff game.
And they almost had them several times.
Couple plays away from advancing against the Rams. That's, I think, giving them extreme momentum moving into this season.
Adding on to year 2 of Tedero McMillan, I think is going to be awesome. Maybe we get a jump from Xavier Legette. I don't know about you, but I'm a very big fan coming out of South Carolina when he was taken in the first round a couple years ago.
The potential's there. We just haven't seen it yet, and I think you will. the offense just hasn't been good as a unit previously. Aside from running the ball, they've been pretty consistent at running the ball. That's kind of what's kept somewhat competitive. But yeah, I think you're really going to see this pass game flourish this season, especially.
I don't think that they picked the right running back in this situation. I think that they picked Chuba when they should have picked Dowdle.
Yeah, if you're going to keep one, keep Dowdle.
Yeah.
I'm not upset by the whole situation, but
Yeah, of course you're not upset. I mean, obviously, but I feel like Chuba in his own right still deserved a contract extension. He did really well the past couple of years, has been consistent, but Dowdle just took over the backfield last year and made him irreplaceable. And I
yeah,
don't know what they're gonna do this year.
it was obvious though with Chuba, like that organization for whatever reason has always favored Chuba. Like he's always had the lead role, and I don't quite understand why. And we saw that middle of the season last year when I think you've stated before we had prime Barry Sanders out there with Rico
Yes.
Dowdle on the field. So all right, with that being said, let's jump into the draft.
Defensively, I think the additions that they added, though, was very key to this year. I think adding in Devin Lloyd, bringing in Jalen Phillips, I think those two alone is really going to shore up this defense and allow them to really take that next step and to really be the division dog, be the top dog in the division of really the division of chumps.
Yeah, I certainly have them taking this division as well. All right, thank God. Hallelujah. First pick of the draft for the Panthers, an offensive tackle. Finally, a team that gets it. Taking a tackle out of Georgia. Need I say more? It's what we've done in the NFL for the last 15 years. That's what we should be doing. 6'7", 315 pounds. Mel Kiper calling him possibly the most physically gifted offensive lineman at the combine. Sign me up.
Freeling has really dominated that position in the SEC against very, very talented edge rushers. We saw it taken in this draft, and he still kept his quarterback clean, kept him safe. Like, this is just the pick that you need to get to keep Bryce Young healthy.
Yeah, something worth highlighting out of this article on him too. 1,500 plus snaps with only 3 penalties. 2 of them were holds, 1 false start. That's absolutely incredible playing in the SEC with the kind of talent that you're matched up against. I think he's absolutely going to be a starter on this offensive group, and thank God somebody gets it.
A false start, I'm going to give him a pass too. Playing in an SEC stadium with over 100,000 fans, that's loud. Only one false start in that many snaps, that is very incredible. And holding, that's also very incredible at the speed that these defensive tackles and edge rushers have had. Jumping into the next pick, another Texas Tech.
Holy shark shit. Texas Tech defensive lineman.
Who would have saw a Texas Tech defensive player drafted?
Can we really call him a nose tackle anymore? Like, how often do you see someone actually play a nose tackle? I mean, obviously he's built to be a interior defensive lineman. I don't think we'll see a lot of utilization as a nose tackle. I think that's kind of gone away from the NFL aside from maybe the goal line situations. But yeah, this is a great addition for that team. 33 and a half tackles for a loss. That's absolutely incredible. Nothing but good things to say about this guy. I think it was a great pick for this team.
Yeah, another great defensive player out of that Texas Tech defense. A little light for a nose tackle for my liking. I like that 310, 315 nose tackle position, kind of shore up that A gap.
We've seen a lot of them this year. We've had the same
Yeah.
conversation about a lot of defensive linemen, so maybe we're seeing a little bit of a change. We're drafting for speed, not necessarily for size.
Kind of curious about it because we're still seeing a lot of offensive guards still going in that size over speed situation, which they still have that speed, don't get me wrong, but kind of curious on that how imbalance is going to go.
It is kind of an odd trend, though, because you see all these offenses move into this heavy package, 12, 13-man personnel, and we're seeing lighter and lighter defensive tackles, lighter and lighter linebackers. Not sure that that's going to give you an advantage against those packages. And
Well, who has the advantage in that situation is what my question.
I guess it all depends on what the scheme is and what you're trying to do, honestly, and probably comes down to play recognition, especially at the linebacker position. But on the defensive line, if you're going heavy personnel, running, I don't know, play action, or if you're handing the ball off, somebody who's sub 300 pounds, I feel like you're getting blown off the ball in heavy packages,
Yeah,
giving up 6 yards.
you run a power run offense like the 49ers like to run. They have heavy interior offensive guards. They're just going to run down the middle against these guys. But at the same time, they're not going to be able to do anything against the pass.
I will say, I think it gives you that versatility
Yeah.
where you can see these defensive linemen even drop into coverage at times. It gives you it with defensive linemen that are this quick and this athletic, it essentially eliminates the screen from affecting you depending on how poorly they recognize it. But if you know the screen's coming and they're quick enough to get back to it and not get upfield, because that's what sets up the entire screen.
You want to talk about opening up a can of worms. Don't get me started on the overrun of
It's so
screenplays in the
frustrating. When
offenses.
you see him, you're like, stop going upfield.
I'm sorry, but it's 3rd and 12. Why the fuck are we running a
Oh,
running back screen right now?
the-
We're going to get a couple yards and maybe we'll break one off. No, you're going to get your ass stomped and have to punt. I wonder why. The 1 out of 10 times that it actually works. Let's stick with it every single 3rd down. I'm cool with running back and receiver screens, but not every single play, not every single drive, maybe 2 a game.
All right, jumping into the third round, Chris Brazel II, wide receiver out of Tennessee. 4'3", 40, 6'4", 198 pounds. This is a tall, long, quick downfield receiver. I think he's going to fit great within this group. They've got that smaller slot position already pretty well filled between Tedero McMillan and Xavier Legette. They played him a lot on the outside, but I think he's going to fit in so much better not being the dominant outside guy.
And see, I think Legette playing slot would be great because you have 6'3", 6'4", Tedero McMillan on the outside playing that Z position. You throw in Brazel on the X to kind of take that side away from that safety, kind of give that double safety look and allow Legette to make it over the middle. Tight end's kind of a weak spot of this team. So this really allows them to kind of explore their options on playmakers and kind of spread the field out, allow Bryce Young to have options. I think that's the biggest key is give Bryce Young the options.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up the draft discussion, what grade are you going with?
I like the offensive tackle. I really like the offensive tackle. I'm gonna give him a B plus.
I gave him an A
Yeah, I knew you would. I like
just because they addressed the needs better than almost anybody else. Arguably, I think the Falcons drafted for need probably the most. This team's right there behind them, so I felt like it was right to give him an A for the way that I graded this.
yes. I my next question. Do you think it's Bryce Young at quarterback next year? Do
Yes.
you think we're looking at a new quarterback
No.
for this team?
No, Bryce Young's trending in the direction. This team has stuck with him when he wasn't good. He wasn't showing what he needed, but this team had faith in him. And now they're finally getting the result that they invested in. And I think he'll absolutely remain the quarterback of this team. I think we're going to see nothing but upwards trajectory from Bryce Young.
I like the kid. He was supposed to be one of the smartest quarterbacks coming out of the draft ever. Like one of the highest Wonderlic scores in the history of the test. But the size is the only thing that's kind of obviously concerned everybody. The 5'9" frame, the buck 80, which I know coming from my size, I can't say much, but I'm not getting sacked by 300-pound defensive tackles every day. That is my only concern. The kid is very smart. He has a great arm. I just hope that he can be put in the system that will allow him to succeed that he needs.
He's got weapons for sure. The only thing that's questionable on my end would be the run game. I don't know that they have anyone in that backfield that I absolutely love for this team.
Trevor Etienne could be a good running back. He had a lot of good seasons at Georgia. Coming out of college, he had some potential. There is also Jonathan Brooks, who at Florida State was amazing running back, but he just keeps getting decimated with these ACL injuries. And if it wasn't for those injuries, he would be obviously a top 2 or top 3 round pick, but
Yeah.
his injuries have really kind of derailed his career so far. I hope he can turn it around.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I kind of forgot about him, but I feel like this is the backfield of high expectation and underperformers. Chuba, I've never been big on. He's got a lot of potential, but he's
Also good game.
just not great. And the same thing with ETN. He's very good at moments, but he's not that back that you can consistently depend on. So I think you've got two backs that are great at moments, but you can't consistently depend on them. I know that you can't just bring in a Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan. You just
Hey,
can't do that.
we got
Hey
Wish.com
yourself.
Saquon at AJ Dillon.
Not even
So
close.
Quadzilla 2.0, thank you very much, is on the roster. There's a lot of overlook. Maybe Etienne, maybe Brooks, maybe it is Chuba. One of these guys is going to take the reins of that backfield and run with it, just like Rico did last year. And I'm hoping it's Jonathan Brooks. Fingers crossed after taking that year off from injury, because he was fun to watch. But if that's the biggest question, is if they can get the run game developed.
Run game. That'll take a lot off of Bryce Young and having to force those throws downfield, which they've got playmakers downfield, but I think we've
Oh,
hammered
yeah.
on that offense enough. Let's jump into their win-loss total. Most places I'm seeing 6.5, 7, and initially with all this momentum that they have, I'm going, oh, hammer the over on this one. That's my first thought. You look at this schedule, and it is absolutely brutal. Jumping in there, week 1, they have to go against the Chicago Bears, divisional game. You've got Cleveland, and you've got Detroit. But this middle stretch of this season right here is just absolutely rough. I mean, I see onesie twosie wins. I still am leaning towards the over, but this is not a friendly schedule by any means. I think the NFC South got absolutely hammered with their schedule. Personally, the AFC teams that they have to play, it just make it really tough for them.
The over due to the momentum, but I'm still a little upset having to wear the corn dog costume last year. Kind of
So
still
you're betting
upset.
the under out of spite.
I'm a little bit. They are the division champions. They do have the momentum, and luck is on their side as of right now. I hope that they can move it forward, but every single game is going to be a battle. And I know you've said it before, but this is a gauntlet of a schedule. This is a very, very tough stretch that they're going to have to go through, and it's going to really test their maturity that Bryce Young has gotten over the past couple of years and the development of their receivers, their offensive line, and the defensive players that they brought in to shore them up.
Yeah, safe bet. If you're seeing that line at 6.5, some books have it at 6.5. I think they can get to 7 wins. But that 7.5, getting to that 8 win mark, that's where this division is at across the board for the most part. But I don't know if they can do 8 wins. They have the potential to, but if you want a safe bet, you see that 6.5, I think you could jump on that.
Do you, looking at this whole division, do you see this whole thing being within about 2 wins, 2 games?
I would say between the top and the bottom, I'm going to say 3 to 4 range at most. Probably more likely 2, 2.5, like you're saying. I still am favoring the over, but slightly at that 7.5 mark. I'll put them in for the over.
You know what I think is going to screw them the most? I think that the Panthers are going to get a tie this year. But I just get that feeling that the Panthers are going to tie a game.
Philly after the bye week.
You know what?
Philly after the bye week.
When Philly won the Super Bowl, the only team that actually gave them a good challenge was the Panthers. I mean, Rams had their chance, but the Panthers really, really tested Philly. I could see a tie.
You heard it here.
That would be fun. Can you imagine how pissed off Philly fans would be if they tied with the Panthers, though? There would be riots.
Where
Overall,
are you finishing, under over?
I'm going to say take the under. I'm going to take the under. I think that tie is going to fuck them.
That's out of spite.
Yes, 50% is out of spite, but I do think there's a lot of potential. I think this is the funnest team. I do think the quarterback is going to hold them up, though. I know your issues with the run game, but I think the run game is going to save this team from the horrible passing game that they're going to have.
Thank you for joining us on Hot Takes and High Stakes, brought to you by Press Coverage Sports Media. This has been your NFC South Rundown. Have a good weekend.